Kim Dae-in, a 22-year-old from Seoul, ends up in a world of superpowers and villains. A blonde woman calls him egoistic. He praises her, but she rejects him and calls him trash. He says this is his last game and promises not to appear again. His body turns into purple light and fades away. In truth, Kim Dae-in had time-traveled into the comic Stardust. He chooses to become the villain Egoistic. Remembering his past with Stardust, who is important to him, he makes a secret plan to use his knowledge of the story to stop other villains early before they become too strong, all to protect his favorite character, Extinction. After that, Kim Dae-in kills Lino, a dangerous villain, and takes his plans. The police close in, and though people will call him a hero, Dae-in feels only tired and annoyed. Han Shu-en, a sharp white-haired girl, thanks him for stopping Lino, but Dae-in worries that people will soon turn against Stardust. To protect his role, he decides he must make everyone believe he is the true villain. During his first public appearance, Kim Dae-in introduces himself as Egoistic. On giant screens across the city, he announces that he has already defeated Lino and caused Zodiac's death. He then reveals that bombs are hidden around the city, throwing people into fear and chaos. Calmly, Egoistic declares the game has begun. Soon, the A-level heroes arrive. From the sky, Stardust finally appears, glowing with powerful energy and surrounded by drones. Kim Dae-in, now a villain, remembers her strength and the distance between them. He admits to himself that he became a villain only for her. Stardust calls him egoistic and he threatens her with a detonator, warning her not to move. With a twisted smile, he reminds her, the path they're on will not be easy. Kim Dae-in, a 15-year-old, sits watching TV with popcorn, copying the laugh of the villain on the screen. While joking around, he notices a reflection in the glass showing him and Stardust standing on a tall building above the quiet city. Moments before, he had put on monocle glasses and told her with a grin that his subordinates control the broadcast, so she shouldn't act too boldly. Stardust angrily tells Kim Dae-in to free the innocent people. He mocks her, pretending to agree, and says he will unlock the elevators. When he snaps his fingers, the elevator lights turn on, and Stardust looks shocked. A man runs to the elevator, but Kim Dae-in warns him. He says if they press the drop button, a bomb on the viewing platform will explode. They only have 30 minutes, and he reminds them they are just strangers to each other. Kim Dae-in, Stardust, angrily calls the crowd selfish. People argue and panic because a bomb will explode soon. Some fear someone might press a button and kill others. Others say there is no time and warn pressing it would kill people. The scene is tense, and everyone must decide quickly. Stardust is angry and worried about the hostages. She thinks about attacking the villain, but realizes it won't help if he has other traps. She warns him and asks if he enjoys risking people's lives. Kim Dae-in tells Stardust he respects her as a top hero, but says he wants to show her weakness to the whole country. He admits he's doing this for his own amusement. He finds it fun to make her look helpless. Stardust is confused and upset by his words. Kim Dae-in sets up a dangerous game. He says if Stardust can finish it in 30 minutes, the bomb won't go off. Stardust doesn't trust him and questions his words. Kim Dae-in starts a countdown and cameras focus on Stardust. The whole world watches as her face appears on screens. Stardust, known as a symbol of hope, introduces herself as an A-level hero and says that everyone carries a belief in their heart. Kim Dae-in wanted to be remembered as a scary villain while Stardust stood as a bright hero. Stardust told everyone to stay strong, believe in themselves, and never give in to evil. As the countdown started, people held their breath, and Stardust prepared herself until the timer hit 0. Kim Dae-in became frustrated during the countdown. He couldn't believe no one pressed the button to save themselves. Pulling his hair, he shouted that it was impossible, and that at least one selfish person should have done it, like him. Stardust calmly said that not everyone is selfish, and she believes in people's kindness. Kim Dae-in realized she was the one who brought people together and found it exciting. Before he could act, Stardust turned into red lightning and punched him. Kim Dae-in was shocked but also admired Stardust's sense of justice. Stardust confidently declared she would win. Cameras captured the moment, and the worried crowd below turned excited and hopeful. The crowd cheered loudly for Stardust. She raised her hand, showing an empty palm. Kim Dae-in was thrown down a dark corridor filled with purple energy, sliding helplessly as his body spun. He felt something inside him break. He realized he was dying after sending out a powerful attack. The move hurt his body badly, so he could hardly move a finger. For days after, he would be alive only in body, empty and unable to act. Su Enya mocked Kim Dae-in's hat, saying it made him look cheap. Kim Dae-in weakly said he was about to die, but Su Enya coldly told him to get his own water and left. Alone, his body started to freeze up like a statue. Peace returned to the city after the attack with no deaths reported. Stardust floated above, thinking about how to move people's hearts and vowing to catch Kim Dae-in next time. Meanwhile, So-en gulped down a bottle of water. In a dark meeting room, the Dahan Heroes Association watched news reports. President Park Jun-ho grew impatient and told the analysts to skip the boring parts. The analyst explained that bombs with teleportation were set outside the building, strong enough to destroy the platform. Tired and stressed, Park asked if they had any clues about who hijacked the broadcast. The analyst said no top officials were part of the case. The way the criminal broke past security is still unknown. The person can control radio waves and may have had help from someone skilled. He is deeply obsessed with Stardust and even left her a bloody message at the crime scene. President Park asked Stardust what the man was like. Stardust replied that he is a psychopath, a monster who enjoys messing with people's feelings and is capable of planning big attacks. She called him a true villain. 2 days later, Kim Dae-in wakes up sweating and panics, sure he's dying. He drags himself to the fridge and gulps down water. Soo-en shows up, arms crossed, and dryly teases him for drinking from the bottle again. Soo-en, the skilled hacker and future top villain, was with Kim Dae-in. She told him not to act like he owned her place since the underground base was hers and she cared about her living costs. Dae-in tried to ease the mood, but Soo-en stopped him and told him not to drink from bottles. He joked a little, but Soo-en quickly turned serious, saying there was a problem before leaving through a door. Soo-en takes Dae-in into a dark room with many screens. She tells him about Lai Soo-bin, a woman who could be her ally. Dae-in asks if she is active on the dark web and notes she looks like one of his fans. Soo-en shows him a live camera feed of her. On the screen, a group of attackers in top hats aimed their weapons at civilians, declaring a terrorist attack in Incheon and taking hostages. Dae-in, his voice flat, asked, "What are these guys doing?" Soo-en replied calmly, "That woman is now a hostage." As the shocking details appeared, Dae-in watched the surveillance footage of a woman in a white mask, holding a rifle. The news confirmed at least 3 civilian deaths and 300 hostages trapped inside the building. His face darkened, hidden in shadow. Soo-en broke the silence. "What is our principle?" "Never kill civilians," Dae-in answered firmly, his knuckles tightening. "I need to clean up this mess," he said with determination. "Will you help me?" Soo-en gave a silent nod. On the screen, chaos unfolded as Dae-in fixed his gaze on the masked woman. "I'll decide on the spot," he muttered. Outside, Stardust watched from a high vantage point, her expression cold as flames lit the building below. A voice in her headset ordered her to prepare for intervention. The police were still negotiating, but she already had clearance to use lethal force if necessary. A flicker of unease flashed in her blue eyes. "Why is he here?" she whispered. This kind of terrorism she thought was different. Explosives mixed with live broadcasts, pure intimidation. Her thoughts were cut short when a voice crackled through her channel. Egoistic was live on scene, streaming through an illegal broadcast. Swiping her fingers, Stardust confirmed and watched the feed, chaos swirling around a man in black, voices shouting for the hostage's release. The tension rose sharply when one of the armed followers, shaking, demanded to know who stood before them. His wide eyes revealed both fear and a strange excitement at the presence of Egoistic. Another follower shouted that their heroes had finally arrived, calling out to Lord Egoistic, and the frenzy grew louder. Egoistic revealed himself, his presence heavy with a dark aura. Jin Doran's body trembled, every muscle straining as he absorbed the energy around him. He cried out that it was all because of them, his voice cutting through the chaos while one follower continued to babble in confusion. In the midst of the uproar, Dae-in fixed his gaze on his target. He had already chosen his move. In a blur, he dashed forward, leaving only an afterimage, and fired. A spray of blood filled the air as a follower dropped to the ground. Panic broke out when the others realized the shooter was no savior, but an undercover officer. Gunfire erupted as the rest scrambled for cover. Dae-in remained calm, pressing his weapon against a follower's forehead, the cold steel spelling out death. A faint grin tugged beneath his mask as blue light flickered from his fingertips. He made it clear he had no room for foolish followers like them. Stardust listened to the command center's orders through her earpiece. They stressed that the hostages must be protected while the police handled the terrorists. Her body tensed as she gave a short reply, saying she understood. On the ground, a masked woman collapsed, her gun slipping from her hands. Soo-en's voice came sharply, urging Dae-in to act. She insisted the woman was dragged here by force and wasn't part of the attackers. Egoistic stepped toward the terrified woman who curled up in fear. She screamed for help as he grabbed her face and tore off the mask in one swift move. He looked down coldly, his voice stripped of emotion, saying she had done wrong. Tears blurred her eyes as she stammered out an apology, her voice breaking. The hostages stood frozen, tension thick in the air. Dae-in, gun steady in hand, gave a chilling warning that if she cried, he would shoot. His weapon glowed threateningly near her head, and her sobs stopped at once, trapped in silence. Then, turning from her to face the live camera, he spoke with heavy words. He admitted this wasn't who he was, but said he felt responsible for the copycat crimes. The chat went silent, shocked and unsure how to respond. With remorse in his voice, he promised compensation for the victims, including the hostages, and bowed his head for the 3 lives already lost. Dae-in's mind raced as he weighed the risk of money being traced back through the shell company. He brushed it off, thinking Soo-en could handle it. Just then, her voice came through his earpiece, urging him to bring the woman quickly. With determination, he hoisted Lee Subin onto his shoulder despite her panicked scream. Blue currents surged through his body as teleportation tore at his nerves, the distortion twisting reality around them until the building crumbled in a violent burst. When his body finally stabilized in midair, he caught sight of Stardust. Her golden hair glimmered through the smoke, and her sharp blue eyes fixed on him with urgency as she ordered him not to change anything. In a coffee shop at Yonsei University, Shen Xiaolu sat alone, her eyes fixed on her phone. The headline on the screen read, "The villain assumes responsibility and compensates. The public is in chaos." She scrolled through the endless comments, crawling like worms, pressing her fingers to her temples as the weight in her chest grew heavier. Suddenly, an image forced its way into her mind, a red figure falling from the sky, a black silhouette standing at the center of an explosion. The fragments of memory burned sharp and painful. She remembered Kim Do-eun looking upward, and her jaw tightened as one name came to her like a curse, egoistic. She swore she would catch him this time. Her body surged with power, lightning crackling around her fists as it cut through the air, yet only an afterimage landed. He had already slipped away. Her breath came out uneven until a voice beside her brought her back to the present. Cha Kixian, holding a drink, asked if her homework wasn't going well. Lifting her head, Shen Xiaolu gave a small smile and said she was fine, just distracted. To the world, she was an A-level hero from South Korea, though most only saw an ordinary college student. Her perception filters kept her identity hidden, but they couldn't quiet her restless mind. The shadow of egoistic lingered. Writing in her notebook, she whispered to herself, "All humans are selfish." Then why did he save the hostages? Kim Chahan's voice broke through her thoughts, remarking that she seemed gloomy again, pulling Shen Xiaolu back to reality. Kixian clasped her hands together, suggesting they take a break from homework and grab her favorite mango smoothie. At the mere mention of mango, Shen Xiaolu's eyes lit up, old laughter echoing in her memory as a faint voice stirred in her mind. But frustration quickly surfaced. She declared the mango as hers, scribbling furiously across the paper. Watching her, Kim Chahan teased that she couldn't even solve mangoes, which was impossible. Shen Xiaolu shot back that mango belonged to him, though her eyes burned with stubborn fire as she pouted, vowing she would catch egoistic and reveal his identity. Meanwhile, in the heart of Seoul, another scene unfolded in an ordinary-looking house. A woman stepped through the front door, then entered an elevator beside it. Typing in a long code, she descended deep underground, arriving at Egoistic's hidden base. Inside, Kim Do-eun lay sealed in a containment unit while Soo-eun sat beside him, calmly absorbed in a book. Soo-eun asked lightly why his elder brother would choose to use another person's name. Kim Do-eun told Soo-eun that their houses were practically the same. Soo-eun dismissed the logic as absurd. Suddenly, Kim Do-eun shot up with a loud reaction, but Soo-eun's cold voice cut her short, warning her not to make strange noises and to just lie down quietly. Feeling wronged, Kim Do-eun complained that she had teleported with someone, and it had been exhausting. Soo-eun, known for his sharp mind, hadn't taken her in just as an assistant, but also because of the fatigue recovery cabin. Relieved, Kim Do-eun gave him a thumbs up in approval. While Soo-eun's eyes stayed on his book, another voice broke the silence. Lee Subin stepped in, holding a bag, mentioning that the fridge was empty and asking if anyone wanted a snack. From inside the containment unit, Kim Do-eun's voice rang out, accusing her of being a wanted criminal. Lee Subin, surprised, replied that she had hidden her face behind her bangs. Kim Do-eun only found that more suspicious. Soo-eun jumped off the bed and turned to Kim Do-eun, demanding to know why she had brought Lee Subin along. Soo-eun explained that he wanted her help. Kim Do-eun quickly objected, pointing out that such decisions should be made before committing acts of terror, and she was against bringing a terrorist home. Soo-eun sighed, wondering who could guarantee the woman wouldn't open fire at home. She pointed out that the woman had no wish to join the attack and had been dragged out by the followers. Turning to Lee Subin, Soo-eun addressed her by name, like Subin, which left Lee Subin bewildered and asking how Soo-eun knew. Soo-eun said she knew everything. Lee's parents had been researchers at Han Group, and the memory of an abandoned building came to mind. Lee Subin went momentarily silent, asking again how Soo-eun had learned this. Soo-eun explained that she had seen Lee's posts on the dark web and noted that the interceptor Lee had designed contained many vulnerabilities. She reminded Lee that in the post, Lee had spoken of avenging Han Group. Lee's expression hardened. She said she was looking for Han Group's leaders, that she had suffered too, and that those responsible deserved to be crushed. She admitted that only vengeance could ease her resentment. Then she reached out and asked Soo-eun to help. Kim Do-eun observed the scene and realized that Lee Subin, like Soo-eun, was also a victim of the Han Group. She remembered how, when recruiting Soo-eun, she had promised to help with her revenge. Watching now, she sensed story. Still, she seemed harmless, an extra piece that didn't disturb the plan. Soo-eun and Lee Subin embraced, their silent sobs blending together. Watching them, Kim Do-in remarked with confusion that she seemed to be the only one left out and wondered if this was what people meant by emotional flow. Soo-en smirked and pointed out that her male character had already collapsed long ago. Meanwhile, in a brightly lit restaurant, a woman sat crying, asking why she had been treated so cruelly. The man across from her answered coldly, saying it was annoying and that he had only admitted to liking her a little. Was that really something to be so sad about? Just then, the door burst open. A policeman entered and stated that they had received a report, asking the two to come with him to the station. The man stayed calm, slicing into his steak as if nothing mattered. When the officer demanded he leave, he snapped that he only wanted to eat. The officer warned that refusal would count as non-cooperation and moved to arrest him. Grabbing for his wrist, he found no resistance, only cold detachment. Suddenly, red squares flickered around the purple-haired man, the air dropping to a chilling cold. In the blink of an eye, he vanished, leaving only a crimson glow behind. A sharp gust carried him high above the city. From that height, the glowing streets below looked like scattered stars. The officer's voice still reached him, pleading for him to return to the station. He agreed in a flat tone, but the next moment, a devastating kick cracked through the air. Bones shattered as the officer plummeted into the void, his scream lost to the wind. Looking down at the endless dark, the man sneered, asking who dared speak to him that way. His name was Lin Surij, an A-level villain feared for his power of teleportation. A fragment of memory echoed in Han Xuan's mind, carrying a haunting question. You thought you killed me. Can this world be changed? As the notorious S-class criminal known as Bei's Witch, he casually held up an empty bottle, remarking that the orange juice was gone and blaming Soo-en for it. The archive records showed that Han Xuan was only 16. Soo-en entered with a plate, admitting that she had drunk the juice and promising to buy another. Soo-en suddenly hugged her from behind, a gesture that felt oddly possessive in Kim Do-in's eyes. Daein then asked if Soo-en had finally given up pretending to be a woman. Flustered, Soo-en's cheeks turned red as she turned away, calling out brother, brother from inside the house. Daein chuckled lightly while standing outside the base. Soon after, the three returned to their stations, the cold glow of the monitors reflecting on their faces. On the screen, data revealed Han Xuan's superintelligence and the horrific truth. Hundreds of children had been used for illegal experiments. Han Xuan was the lone survivor of the Han Enji Galaxy project, until one day, a child's body reacted in a way no one predicted. The transformation was catastrophic. Flesh turned into blazing light, devouring everything nearby. The facility vanished along with everyone connected to the project. Amid the ruins, Han Xuan was the only one who emerged, dragging herself from the wreckage, the last breath of life in a desolate place. Wounded and broken, she escaped the facility and hid away in a basement, surviving like a shadow within a machine. Years passed this way until one day, someone came looking for her, breaking into her fragile reality. She was eating noodles then, the rising steam more real than the figure standing behind her. The sudden crash of a plastic chair echoed sharply, and the smell of spilled soup filled the air. Trembling, she clutched her only weapon, a bent fork, ready to strike if she had to. A voice from the dark told her there was an offer. It wasn't about avenging the dead. It was about needing her help. A hand reached toward her, an invitation hidden in the shadows, and Kim Do-in's faint smile revealed itself. In the story already written for her, Han Xuan was fated to become an S-class criminal twisted by revenge, doomed to perish. But Do-in swore she would not let her suffer that fate. She would rewrite her ending. Later, as Kim Do-in lifted a coffee cup, she wondered if Soo-en had been stained by the schemes she was drawn into. Yet she resolved that she would guide her regardless. Then Soo-en's voice broke in, asking what she was looking at, insisting she wouldn't understand anyway. Do-in's eyes shifted to another girl, Subin, who had lost both her parents, researchers taken too soon. Despite the tragedy, she had entered a top university, studying computer engineering, and in time she would lend her skills to Soo-en's hacking. Though Do-in had doubted her at first, she couldn't deny the girl's unmatched talent in the kitchen. Soo-en spread her hands, saying it was done. The tracking sensor was attached. A small metal spider rested silently in her palm. Kim Do-in asked why the sensor was necessary. Soo-en gave a short laugh, reminding her of their top priority, clearing the villain list. The device, she said, was prepared for the man on the screen, Lin Surij. Kim Do-in noted with unease that he was an A-level criminal who could teleport short distances without effort, like a ghost no one could catch. Soo-en's reply was cold. The more troublesome the enemy, the sooner he had to be dealt with. Kim Do-in muttered that every teleport felt like a roar of power, but Soo-en only laughed, telling her to get to work quickly, calling her egoistic. When daylight spread across the neighborhood, Kim Do-in, now Miss Suit, sat on a rooftop edge. She mentioned it was time for Soo-en to move, her eyes on the communicator. Soo-en's impatient voice came through, asking why she hadn't entered yet. Kim Do-in hesitated, wondering aloud if it was really safe to send it straight into the living room. What if he was already there? Soo-en paused with her fingers over the keyboard and ordered them to fire the position tracker and open fire. She insisted she had said it many times. Even if he teleported away from the bullet, the tracker would still find him. Kim Daeun asked how they were supposed to do that, her doubt clear. Soo-an replied that she had made the tracker faster than bullets, and with a touch of sarcasm, told the liberal arts student she wouldn't understand and to move quickly. Her tone sharpened into a demand. Kim Daeun hesitated and asked if it wouldn't be better to confront him out on the street. Soo-an answered that he never walked, only teleported, and that her plan had come after studying him. She found him infuriating. Soo-bin tried to rally them, calling out encouragement. Soo-an joined in, echoing the cheer. Kim Daeun allowed herself a small, grateful smile. Then Soo-an focused, began the space tear and stitch, and appeared in his steam-filled room. Ling Suiji was there, towel in hand, and when he turned his head, he froze, eyes widening with a sudden, instinctive horror. Instructions ran through him as he squeezed the trigger, reminding himself to listen only for idling parts. 2 white lights flashed from the weapon, and a metal spider shot out, but it missed when Ling Suiji vanished. Kim Daeun asked, urgent and low, whether Soo-an's location tracker had been posted. Soo-an said Soo-bin had sent the coordinates and that the cold data stream showed him 500 meters to the east. Kim Daeun dropped onto the sidewalk. The crowd's whispers followed, people trying to identify her and murmuring that Egoistic had appeared. Signals lit the network. Egoistic was in the city center. Manhwa University, Lecture A303, and the ominous ping reached Sheng Xiaolu, who announced that Hero Star Dust was ready. Sheng Xiaolu's pen paused. She apologized for the distraction, pushed herself to her feet, and asked whether Egoistic was planning to jump from the roof this time. On the other end, Egoistic faced a crossroad. Kim Daeun spun around, aiming her weapon at the spot where Ling Suiji had stood. He appeared unaffected, as if nothing had touched him. He taunted that the red light showed she had been hit anyway. Kim Daeun brushed it off, slipping through reality with a sharp move. Her body reappeared right in front of the target, leaving a faint purple afterimage behind. But before her strike could land, a massive truck crashed into view, cutting across the screen. Soo-an's voice rang out, urging the team to puncture communication. Kim Daeun's pupils widened, her masked face frozen. Shock hit her as she realized they were facing an unexpected twist. What lay ahead was no longer just a fight, but a fatal accident. Memories stirred as Ling Suiji fled after the chaos. He felt a rush, his body hanging by ropes like merchandise waiting to be processed. From the darkness, a voice promised to return something, though he had no need for it. A cigarette's red tip moved closer to the rope, hinting that everything was about to change. Another voice pleaded for one last chance, but the words were drowned out. Heat snapped the fibers, and his body dropped into the cold river. The wind scattered the sound of his fall, turning it into nothing. His final curse vanished into the dark, vowing spite against those who had wronged him. Then, a flash lit up the bridge. The air twisted, and the leader nearby felt the sudden shift in temperature. He turned and froze. Ling Suiji, who should have sunk beneath the water, now stood before him, covered in scars that looked unhealable. Staring in his untouched hands in disbelief, he realized something had changed. Snapping back from shock, the man barked orders and his men rushed forward. Yet Ling Suiji only felt power burning inside him, a glow unlike anything before. With defiance in his thoughts, he knew no one in this world could catch him anymore. A red light burst from his body, tearing through flesh and blood. Ling Suiji dashed across the street, the cars around him blurring. He cursed, realizing his calculations had failed, his abdomen twisting as energy invaded his organs. It became clear the man chasing him wasn't driven by revenge, but by some rigid sense of justice. Amid the chaos, an unfamiliar voice cut in, claiming it had nothing to do with him and that he was too busy. The voice added with eerie calm that there was no need to fear, only that they should head to hell together. From above, Kim Daeun's cold words echoed, calling villains trash meant for the trash can. Ling Suiji's body writhed in silence, yet his hand reached toward a nearby woman. Startled, she let out a sharp cry and stumbled backward. Soma shouted in alarm, asking if she was okay, just as Ling Suiji caught her instinctively. Her heart stuttered, blood dripping to the ground. Ling Suiji stared at his own unresponsive hands, despair sinking in. He muttered, asking why this was happening to him, as his consciousness slipped and the world around him blurred. Egoistic's lips curled, though it wasn't a smile. He told Ling Suiji she was no different, a villain too. Lin lay motionless, cursing in protest. Turning to the crowd, Egoistic declared that this man had stolen billions, killed 4 innocents, and asked if such a person deserved to live. The people roared back, demanding his death. As Lin twitched in anger, insisting there was no difference between them, Egoistic spoke coldly. He warned that Lin's crimes would only grow, that he was destined to become an S-class villain who would massacre hundreds. Remembering the pain Lin had caused, he said there was no other choice. He had to die here. A gunshot rang out, blood staining the pavement. Egoistic looked down without emotion, adjusting his hat as he reflected on the absurdity of being called a villain in this strange but familiar world. Phones rose in the crowd, capturing everything. Suddenly, a shout cut through the chaos. Stardust. Kim Daeun crashed into the scene, the ground splitting under her landing. Seeing Lin's lifeless body, she pointed at Egoistic in disbelief, demanding what he had done. Egoistic claimed she had cleared a classic criminal, the villain who terrorized the bank, saying this was what heroes should do. Her words were met with disbelief, as some wondered if a hero should act without a proper trial. Curious, Shinshalu asked whether she was a hero or a villain. Kim Daeun answered proudly that she was a villain. She admitted that private revenge was illegal, but said she respected Egoistic's sense of justice, deciding to retreat for the day. The crowd buzzed in confusion, questioning if villains should really walk free and whether this so-called hero had already failed. Egoistic's intentions grew murky in their eyes. As night fell, a phone notification announced the clearing of an A-level criminal. The news spoke of the villain Egoistic and the dispatched hero Stardust, though the photo showed only Egoistic, sparking hushed whispers. Meanwhile, Stardust sat alone atop a skyscraper, watching the restless city with hair drifting like shadows in the wind. In the Shishi dark area, rain poured down as a girl cried out, "Wake up, Mom and Dad." Her name was Shin Haru, and she was 17 years old. Desperately, she attempted to awaken her parents, their lifeless bodies lying nearby. A man stood over her, holding a gun, accusing her of not handing them over. "You're lucky," he scoffed, stepping away from the scene. Haru laid on the ground, tears streaming down her face as she mourned her parents. She slammed her hand against the ground in frustration, wishing she had the power to protect them. Just then, a brilliant golden light burst forth in the sky and descended toward the earth. Haru noticed it in turn, her body enveloped in a shimmering aura, before losing consciousness. The scene shifted to the ego stream where a boy stirred in his sleep, feeling uneasy. Suddenly, Haru appeared, declaring that he was finally awake. Confused, he asked her what she was doing there. The white-haired girl informed him that they needed to discuss an assignment at the table. She showed him his instructions, write the facts about the E-rank villain Egoistic. It noted that he had attained a ranking, having taken down a villain named Zodiac during a disastrous terror attack. The excitement of the local commentators was palpable, particularly as he had even paid the hostages. "You wouldn't believe how hard it is to capture him," she exclaimed. The girl noted that opinions were mixed. Egoistic had far more fervent fans than some might expect. The boy was shocked. "What about Stardust?" he asked. The girl rolled her eyes in annoyance. "Why do you always want to compare with her? Just look at the comments. Egoistic is better. What has Stardust even done?" This made him think. After all, Stardust had only taken down 3 villains while his father, Shadow Walker, and his mother, Icicle, had apprehended hundreds on their own. "But that's public opinion," the girl retorted. He considered this and realized that Stardust's lack of activity had colored the public's perception of her competence. She then showed him something on her phone, a fan club devoted to Egoistic. He couldn't believe it. The notion of a fan club for a villain had exploded, eclipsing Stardust's popularity. With his body surrounded by a purple aura, the boy declared, "I can't let this slide." They both watched in disbelief as he prepared for the next terror attack. The white-haired girl was horrified by his plans, while the other girl found it puzzling. "The people of Korea need to see what a real villain looks like," he proclaimed, "and who the real hero is. I have to put Stardust back on top. Otherwise, I'll just be another villain." Meanwhile, the scene shifted to another girl enjoying a drink, her cute face lighting up as she murmured about how mango frappes were best. Suddenly, she turned to notice the chatter around her. People were commenting about how the great hero had arrived late. One bystander added that she couldn't teleport anyway. Overhearing the conversation, the girl realized that the public was more excited about Egoistic killing villains than about heroes who let them go so easily. Disheartened, she clutched her ears to drown out the negativity, muttering that she had to stay focused. Just then, a familiar voice broke through the crowd. "Why are you slapping your cheeks?" It was Cha-hyun, who had come closer and sat down beside her. "What a nice day it is. You should relax a bit." "Yes, you're right," she replied, shocked that she had been so oblivious to the cherry blossoms blooming around her. Cha-hyun teased that she had to show her something hilarious that was trending, but the first girl was too absorbed in her thoughts of Egoistic growing in popularity. Upon checking her phone, she saw that Egoistic was live and Stardust was also broadcasting. Anger brewed within her at the thought of Cha-hyun showing interest in Egoistic. Standing up suddenly, she declared, "I have something urgent to do." Without waiting for a response, she raced off. "Wait!" Cha-hyun called after her, but the girl was already determined, thinking that this time she would catch him. A scene shifted to a cliff overlooking a railway track, where Egoistic was streaming live. "Long time no see, Korean citizens," he announced, grinning wickedly. His eager audience had gathered, and he realized that they were truly fans of his work. As he addressed them, he mentioned his growing reputation. People had started to mistake him for a hero rather than a villain. With a menacing smile, he held up his phone, showing the audience that a group of people were tied to the train tracks below. "Get ready," he warned, his finger pointing at the camera. "Soon the train will arrive, and I wonder if Stardust is watching." As he said this, the distant rumble of a train echoed in the background, Comments erupted on the screen, with one user admitting to being a Stardust supporter. Egoistic dismissed the comment, coolly laying out the terms of a deadly choice. You have two options: save one or lose five. In other words, one person dies or many. Inside the train, passengers were panicked as the real pilot lay bound and unconscious. Egoistic smiled and reiterated that Stardust had one choice: to pull the lever. Just then, Stardust crashed onto the scene, furious. "You bastard," she yelled, realizing that she had made a split-second decision to confront him. The horrifying truth dawned on her: she was faced with two tracks, one with tied passengers and the other leading to the empty space. Desperate to save everyone, she wrestled with her feelings, knowing that if she pulled the lever, she would become a killer. But if she didn't act, innocent lives were doomed. The pressure mounted and Egoistic laughed, taunting her that she couldn't escape this dilemma. "What will you choose?" he teased, confident that Stardust would never go through with it. Inside the train, panic echoed through the passengers as she weighed her options, though the countdown to disaster was quickly approaching. "You must choose," Egoistic declared, amused by her struggle. As the train hurtled closer, Stardust gathered her strength, realizing that stopping the train would be her only option. With a fierce determination boiling inside her, she focused her powers to halt the oncoming disaster, her unwavering resolve shining through. Yet, as the train barreled forward, she felt her power waning and uncertainty creeping in. The clamor of impending doom echoed around her, and the last remnants of hope began to fade as she clung to the tracks, overcome by the oncoming train. Egoistic began explaining that as the train approached, he thought for certain that Stardust's strong sense of justice would lead her to save everyone. He watched as she rushed toward the train with remarkable speed. Egoistic laughed, feeling pleased that everything was going according to his plan. He had carried the girl tied to the track along with him and placed her there, feeling uncomfortable about the exertion it took. If only it weren't for Shadow Walker, he could have executed this in the cover of night. Daylight was problematic for preparing a terrorist attack abroad. Teleported back to the cliff, he looked down at the scene, feeling both surprised and proud of Stardust. In her original story, she had always struggled against villains, but he reasoned that if he eliminated them beforehand, she would lose the opportunity for growth and simply find herself mired in resentment. He wrote something on the ground stating that this should be considered a special training ground he had prepared just for her. Meanwhile, Stardust sprinted along the tracks, her determination evident. Egoistic raised a finger, acting as if her effort was pointless, claiming he hadn't anticipated her speed. In reality, however, he smiled, fully aware that everything was going according to plan as she collided with the train, an enormous explosion erupting from the impact. As the dust settled, he noted that her abilities, both strength and flight, were still developing. She was merely at the level of an average hero. Stopping such a train should have been impossible for her. Yet there was a facet of her power that others didn't understand. It amplified in crisis situations. Suddenly, her powers surged, and she began pushing back against the train. But still the train accelerated. Egoistic noticed Stardust was almost unconscious from the exertion, sparking panic within him. "This isn't in the plan," he called out, realizing that if someone were to die on the tracks, it would mean Stardust's despair. Frustrated, he ripped at his hair, questioning what he should do. On the other side, Stardust was using every ounce of her energy to succeed, her body feeling like limp glue under the unstoppable force of the train. She screamed in anger as the train threatened to crush her. Egoistic adjusted his costume, hoping desperately she would stop the impending disaster. Moments later, the people surrounding the scene began to notice that she might not be able to halt the train. In an incredible display of strength, she managed to stop it just in time. Egoistic breathed a sigh of relief, realizing they had avoided disaster for now. He called for Stardust, asking her to show herself on the screen since the train was now coming to a halt. To his surprise, she appeared, panting from exhaustion yet standing bravely in front of the train during the live stream. People began commenting, speculating whether she had perished. No, she endured. Egoistic corrected himself, watching as she had successfully averted catastrophe in her unique way. She was truly cool. Comments began to flood in, with many applauding her bravery and questioning why he pretended to be on her team. Egoistic ignored the latter, pleased with the audience's reaction. This is the hero called Stardust, he thought, marveling at her powers being explosively fueled solely by her desire to save lives. Suddenly, Stardust collapsed, falling to the ground next to the hostages. Shocked, Egoistic teleported beside her, where she groggily referred to him as a bastard for orchestrating everything. He agreed, admitting that in a way she had truly done well beyond anything he could have predicted. "This was your victory," he told her, gently closing her eyes. "Now get some rest. The other heroes will be here to help soon." Standing back up, Egoistic proclaimed that this marked the end of his terrorist act, thanking everyone watching the stream as the broadcast came to a close. Anonymous comments flooded the screen with varied reactions, igniting discussion about the surprising interaction between the two. Meanwhile, the white-haired girl ran to wake up. Both she and Egoistic stirred, expressing how tired they were. The girl remarked, "Was she really dead?" To which the white-haired one responded, "We're going to be worn out after just one terror attack." She concluded she had made breakfast, pointing to a plate of omelets with noodles. Both boys couldn't believe she had made it all by herself. Egoistic smirked at her culinary skills while the girl pinched him playfully on the waist, urging him to hurry up and eat before the noodles got cold. As they sat at the table, everyone thanked her for the meal. After just a few bites, they were delighted. Her cooking was genuinely good. Suddenly, she noticed the news channel was buzzing with updates, pointing to the television and declaring, "Let's watch how they're covering our great achievement from yesterday." Egoistic chimed in that a single image must have firmly established his reputation, while Stardust's popularity surely skyrocketed. Two birds with one stone, he mused, satisfied. They watched the news, shocked by what they saw. Are they dating? They questioned incredulously, as the television displayed a picture of Stardust and Egoistic together. The studio anchors discussed the implication of their relationship, showing a photograph where he was caring for her tenderly. "This just looks like a romance between a hero and a villain," one of them proclaimed. The girl slammed her cup on the table in anger, while both boys shouted that this was complete nonsense. There was nothing going on between them. In the next scene, the interview office buzzed with excitement as reporters discussed the most popular villain in Korea and the rising supernova hero. It had become the trending topic of the week. Reporter Park posed a question about the sentiments towards Stardust, indicating something in her name that suggested a deeper connection. "Isn't it just a phrase with her name?" he asked, but immediately opposed his own thought, saying, "No, it's more than that. It's a gift for them. That's exactly what it means." The following day, the reporter praised Stardust, proclaiming that she had achieved a victory in a way they could never have imagined. He pointed to photographs, exclaiming, "If this isn't love, then what on earth is this?" He highlighted the cheerful words spoken in her final moments before she had closed her eyes to sleep. As people tuned in to watch, they echoed this sentiment, questioning if Stardust and Egoistic were truly dating. Stardust, sitting in a classroom, squirmed at the thought. How could everyone think that? Dating a villain? It's impossible. She, grappling with her emotions, felt a strange mix of hatred and confusion surface within her, an emotion she struggled to identify. Suddenly, a girl approached her, calling out Haru. The girl had been utterly worried about her due to the recent assignments. Pulling out a bag of ice cream, she said, "Let's eat today. It might lift your spirits." She encouraged Haru to trust her this time as they planned a little outing to have some fun. The scene shifted to a small girl crying, expressing her desire to join them. The other girl comforted her. "There's no need to throw a tantrum," the little girl insisted, "but I've already been through 2 terror incidents. I just want to go out and play." Everyone felt uneasy, but the boy declared, "Let's go on an outing together." The little girl's face lit up with hope. Haru, thinking she might finally get some time away to relax, felt a flutter of happiness. As they looked at a menu, the boy noticed something like this wasn't in the original story, but quickly shrugged off doubts, wondering what could possibly go wrong. The group arrived at the ice cream festival, filled with laughter and excitement. As they entered, Haru exclaimed, "There are so many people. Look at you in black clothes again." He corrected her, saying, "Black is a manly color. I have to wear it." Blushing, she playfully replied, "What are you saying?" She held her ice cream, her smile brightening her features. "Appa," she called excitedly, pointing at her favorite. "It's rice ice cream." She dashed toward the ice cream parlor, her enthusiasm contagious. The boy thought going out was indeed a great idea, and the girl agreed, her mood lifted by the lively atmosphere surrounding them. They all enjoyed their ice cream together. After finishing, Haru shouted, "I need another one." He readily offered her a spoonful from his cup, temporarily taken aback by her surprised reaction. "What are you doing?" One of the girls interjected. "Hurry up and eat." Haru hesitated before jokingly adding, "Isn't this an indirect kiss?" This made him blush further. "Aha, delicious," he said with a grin, and the girl chimed in that there was mango-flavored ice cream they had to try. He urged her to wait for him as they admired the ice cream selection through the shop's window. "Can I have one at cone, please?" she asked a shopkeeper who smiled and observed, "This child looks just like her parents." "So cute." Flustered, he tried to explain, but found himself agreeing. Haru blushed, thinking about how sweet the shopkeeper's words were. The boy teased her about her height, making her laugh, and the shopkeeper handed them their ice creams, telling them to enjoy. "Did you order your ice cream too?" he asked. She replied, "You're the leader of the mango troop. Of course you have to love mango ice cream." The shopkeeper raised an eyebrow, suspecting something fishy as he inspected the boy's shirt featuring the logo of the Egoistic Mango Club. "What's this?" he murmured. "Just something I made," the boy said quickly, unable to believe how quickly it was expanding. Haru gave a confident thumbs up, confirming it was fantastic. They settled on a bench beneath a tree, enjoying their ice cream, when he noticed a balloon dart game. Nostalgic, he thought back to when he used to throw darts and wanted to show off his skills. Haru questioned, "Aren't you planning to cheat with telekinesis?" "Caught red-handed," he admitted, chuckling. The nearby girl introduced the game's stakes. If they hit all 10 darts, they could win 10 scoops of ice cream, and I want the second prize. The boy replied, "If we win first, can we choose?" Haru nodded eagerly, assuring him they could. He then stated playfully that he might choose something else while picking up a dart. He feigned concentration, loading up his telekinesis and preparing to aim, but just then, a familiar voice interrupted him. "How much for one round?" Turning, he realized it was Kim Cha-hyun, Haru's senior. "I'm excited for the first prize that includes 10 scoops of ice cream," she declared. Determined, he replied, "I will win for you." Just then, all heads turned as a girl with beautiful hair appeared behind them. Both the boy and Haru were stunned, their hearts racing as they recognized Stardust standing in front of them, frozen in place while holding a dart. With a bright smile, the girl tugged at Stardust, exclaiming, "Look, it got rice ice cream." She led Stardust through the bustling crowd, her excitement infectious. Stardust, hesitant at first, allowed herself to be persuaded and tried the ice cream. The moment she tasted it, she felt a wave of amazement wash over her. "This is really good," she exclaimed, her expression finally brightening. However, a fleeting shadow crossed her face as she noticed something out of the corner of her eye. But the girl was undeterred, insisting in a cheerful manner, "Over there is your favorite mango-flavored ice cream." Stardust's face momentarily lit up with excitement, but her mood darkened again when she saw the design proudly displayed on the back of the shopkeeper's shirt. "I made this myself," he said with pride, but disappointment washed over Stardust. Her face swelled with frustration as they settled on a bench to enjoy their treats. The ice cream was indeed delicious, and the boy nodded in agreement. Yet Stardust pondered how long it had been since she had ventured outdoors to take in the scenery. It felt invigorating to be surrounded by nature, even if just for a while. After a few moments, the girl pointed excitedly, "After we finish, let's try the balloon dart popping challenge." The boy and girl exchanged beaming smiles, clearly thrilled at the prospect. A nearby salesman introduced the promotion, announcing, "If you hit all 10 balloons, you can win 10 scoops of ice cream." They agreed enthusiastically, but Stardust noticed a nearby couple that bore a remarkable resemblance to her. Focusing back on the task at hand, Stardust readied herself to throw. "Come on," the boy encouraged. She threw her first dart and hit the target perfectly. He was awed by her poise. How strong. This isn't just ordinary strength, he thought, recognizing her true potential. As she threw another dart, it struck true once again. He marveled at how her powers would eventually evolve, surpassing human limits with even her instincts sharpening in critical moments. Perhaps she could sense whose presence loomed in the background, but she realized that the villain she was facing could very likely be egoistic. Stardust threw a third dart, all three hitting their targets flawlessly, one after the other. "I actually hit all 10, she declared triumphantly. The salesman rewarded them with 10 scoops of ice cream, which they accepted with joy. When asked why he hadn't shown off his own skills, the boy modestly replied, "I was distracted watching my partner do so well." "Just watch closely," he said with a sly smile, "as I demonstrate my skills." He gathered all 10 darts, casually tossing them without using telekinesis. Miraculously, they all found their targets. The crowd gasped in awe. "He did it," people shouted, amazed by his performance. The girl holding the ice cream remarked, "You're pretty good at this." But he kept quiet, fully aware that one wrong word could land him in serious trouble. The salesman, amused, handed him a teddy bear instead of the first prize, saying, "Here's your consolation prize." But just as the girl reached out to grab it, he said, "Wait a second." Before he could finish his sentence, the bear flew out of his hands and the ice cream splattered across the roof of the shop. Stardust and the others burst into laughter, but he felt stressed, hoping to avoid any further chaos. "Let's get out of here," he urged, but the stumbling chaos continued and a mysterious figure appeared beside him. Suddenly, red lights began flashing and an explosion rocked the area. People screamed and fled through the destruction as a crocodile-like man searched for Stardust, demanding her presence. Panic surged within the boy as he thought, he wasn't supposed to show up yet. Why is he causing trouble now? Stardust grabbed his hand and pulled him frantically, thinking they needed to escape. There was no time to get to the Hero Association for help. She was likely to rush in and confront the villain, just as she always did like in the original story. Once she reveals her face, it'll trigger a cycle of misery and disaster, and I won't let that happen. He resolved fiercely, clenching his teeth. In an instant, he teleported the two of them and the girl into their room, quickly changing his clothes before preparing to face the crocodile man. "What are you doing?" Stardust asked, alarmed. He replied, "I'll handle the crocodile man. Someone has to manage the broadcast for support." Before she could protest, he was already gone, leaving her behind. Meanwhile, the crocodile man leveled more destruction in the ice cream festival, declaring in a booming voice, "If Stardust doesn't come out, I'll destroy everything." The boy interrupted, stepping forward with confidence. "Good evening, everyone. The true villain of this era, the egoistic, the public enemy of Korea, has arrived." He gripped the mic, glaring at the crocodile man. "How dare you act up in my territory, you mere crocodile?" The comments flooded in, expressing disbelief and awe at his boldness as he flashed a devilish grin. "For now you are dead," he proclaimed, preparing for the confrontation ahead. The scene shifted 3 years into the past at the Hero Association's lecture hall. A device was displayed in front of an audience of aspiring heroes. The instructor, a seasoned hero, addressed the students, saying a hero cannot live without this. He introduced a system called the cognition separation filter. As the students watched attentively, he explained that the filter allowed heroes to enter and exit situations with a modified appearance, making it difficult for people to recognize them, similar to face blindness. It's crucial to understand how dangerous it can be if a hero's true face is revealed, he continued. There's no one here who doesn't know that, not just for your careers, but for your entire lives. You will be revered or despised, keep that in mind. Stardust, sitting among her classmates, listened intently, torn as she remembered the situation unfolding outside. The chaos continued as the Crocodile Man rampaged through the city. As Stardust held her classmate's arm tightly, she whispered, "It's too late to get to headquarters for the filter. What should we do now?" She clenched her fists, feeling disillusioned as she observed everyone else rushing out, thinking that she had just become a hero only to run away in an emergency. Suddenly, her attention shifted to a screen where Egoistic appeared live, standing tall on a rooftop. "How dare that crocodile mess around in my territory, you bastard!" he proclaimed defiantly, raising the microphone high. "You might as well be dead now." He further mocked the crocodile, emphasizing the importance of daily life for heroes. "Let's be honest, you're just a fool thinking you can come after Stardust." As comments flooded in, the atmosphere shifted. People expressed shock and amusement, observing the serial-like drama between the two. The girl beside Stardust commented, "Egoistic is truly a star." Stardust felt conflicted about his boldness while still grappling with her anxieties. Meanwhile, the Crocodile Man furiously climbed the building toward Egoistic, vowing to defeat him. As he reached the top, he launched an attack, but Egoistic easily countered it using his teleportation powers. He couldn't help but chuckle at how foolish the crocodile was for charging at him without understanding his abilities. "Foolish of you to underestimate me," Egoistic said, appearing above the crocodile and attacking. With every strike, he kept the villain off balance, but the crocodile growled, demanding a fair fight. Egoistic smirked, "Villains don't fight fair. That's just the way it is." The crowd commented that it was amusing to see the crocodile insist on being called a villain while also proclaiming, "You attacked me first." Egoistic glanced nervously at the screen, aware that if he didn't address this misconception, viewers would wrongly assume Stardust was involved. "Listen well, Crocodile," he pointed out, "you marked Stardust as your target first. Since I'm now interested in her too, that makes you my enemy." The comments morphed into skepticism, with some users questioning the crocodile's logic. Does he actually think that? Someone typed, leading to fits of laughter. With power surging through him, the crocodile prepared a massive water attack, shouting that he was going to unleash his secret extreme technique. Egoistic thought, if that connects, it could be devastating. Just in time, he teleported out of the way, remarking, "You would have killed me if that had hit." With a mocking tone, he pulled out his own weapon. "See you in hell, little bastard." He launched an array of projectiles, creating a giant explosion that filled the air with dust and debris. As the smoke began to clear, Egoistic quickly reappeared, wondering if he had defeated the villain. But the crocodile wasn't finished. He had managed to gather himself, grumbling that mere bullets wouldn't wound him. Egoistic noticed the crocodile was standing even more defiantly with a second mask pulled over his face. With a smug expression, he shouted, "You thought I'd let you think you had the upper hand. You just lowered your guard." Egoistic chuckled, ready another attack when suddenly he hurled a bomb straight at him. "Do you think I'm afraid of a little fry like you?" The crocodile taunted. However, as the explosion erupted in his mouth, he quickly found himself ensnared in magical ropes, immobilized. Egoistic, now wearing a smoke mask, thought about how foolish he had been in the original timeline. "I was this strong then, and I suffered terribly because of it." With the crocodile weakly on the ground, he sighed. "The association should designate me as a hero right now, but I still insist on calling myself a villain." As the bombs fell to the ground, he felt his own strength waning. His body trembled from overexertion, thinking it might be better to levitate back using telekinesis. Yet that too felt almost impossible since his stamina had hit its limits. "Why did I come here?" he wondered in disbelief and exhaustion. Suddenly, a light shone brightly on the rooftop as Stardust finally appeared. She questioned him, "Did you defeat the crocodile?" The live stream was still in motion, capturing the moment. "I came down because he was really annoying," Egoistic admitted nonchalantly. Stardust frowned, asking, "Why annoying?" "He kept going on about how he loved you," he replied, irritation creeping into his voice. Messages streamed in from viewers laughing at his frustration. "Now you might just want to reveal your face and step forward, because the moment you do, your life will become miserable." Stardust blinked in surprise at his insight. "How do you know that?" she questioned, her mind racing. "This stream is exhausting. I'm looking forward to what's coming next month," he stated, his demeanor shifting quickly. With that, he teleported back to his room, leaving her with his words hanging in the air. She tried to stop him, but he was already gone, anxiety settling in her stomach. Egoistic collapsed, coughing up blood, feeling weak from the earlier confrontation. He crumpled to the ground as Stardust rushed over, alarmed. "Do you need help?" she called, but he had already lost consciousness. She picked up the mask from the ground, pondering, how did he know what I was thinking? and wondered just who he really was. Soon after, a girl sat at her computer, glued to the screen as news spread rapidly about the shocking events at the ice cream festival. The headline read, "Crocodile Man Arrested After Rampage Saved by Class Villain Egoistic." Another panel appeared, showcasing the fan cafe dedicated to Egoistic, known as the Mango Stick Cafe, where supporters shared their admiration for him. She couldn't believe they were praising him so openly and let out a sigh of resignation. "What is he up to at the Hero Fan Cafe these days?" she muttered under her breath. The comments flooded in with users expressing their frustrations. If South Korea keeps going like this, she thought, feeling a deep unease settle in. As she laid back on her bed, she reflected on how everyone seemed to like Egoistic, while she herself did not. Her mind drifted back to the ice cream vendor who had crafted his own posters, her frustration bubbling to the surface. She recalled his earlier words, "Don't think about him too much. Just show your face like I did today." Maybe everyone was right. Perhaps she was just too weak. The scene shifted to a podium where girls were congregating, anxiously glancing at a boy who lay asleep inside a padded area. When he finally stirred, the white-haired girl exclaimed, "It's about time you've woken up." She hugged him tightly, relief washing over her. He blinked, confused. Why is everyone making such long faces? Her surprise was palpable. "You've been passed out for 3 days," she exclaimed, shaking her head. As he slowly began to process this, he realized just how much he had overexerted himself, using both teleportation and psychokinesis extensively. "You really need to take care of yourself," she urged. "I will," he promised, but his exhaustion suggested otherwise. "Let's just hang out and play games together," he joked lightly. "Why did you leave in such a hurry? Anyone would have thought you were a hero." He rolled his eyes. "I told you, I'm just a villain." What if Stardust had revealed her face in the midst of all that chaos? She pressed. "It would have been a fatal mistake," he replied seriously. "If a hero reveals their identity, villains who harbor most people don't become heroes. They follow the path of least resistance and choose villainy instead. Look at South Korea right now. There are only 3 A-class heroes: Stardust, Icicle, and Shadow Walker. But A-class villains are everywhere." Listening intently, she pondered, "So is the point for heroes to eliminate villains? What kind of dark hero are you?" "I'm just a little interested in the state of South Korea," he replied nonchalantly. "Do you really like Stardust?" she pressed, her eyes narrowing. He shot her a look. "If you're going to refer to her, at least use some respectful language." The moment became tense as she stared him down with an incredulous expression. Another girl interjected to ease the mounting pressure. "How about we talk about what we discussed earlier? Summer is coming, let's plan a trip to the beach." He perked up. "That sounds nice." "Yes, we're actually going to the beach," she cheered, but he added, "Let's pull off one more act of terror before we go." "Terrorist act?" she echoed incredulously. "Since we have some approval, let's step it up. Stardust needs a power-up, and we can't guarantee another crocodile won't pop up." If Stardust had gone against him instead of me, she definitely would have struggled. Frustrated, the girl shot back, "But we are really going on a trip." He raised his little finger. "I promise." She agreed, smiling widely, sealing the promise. Afterward, she went off to pack, the atmosphere shifting to one of joy and anticipation. As she packed, she considered various ideas, wondering if she should suggest one. "Let's think of something innovative this time. The previous attacks have been all land-based. We need something from water and air. How about trying from the sky?" The boy nodded. "That's a great idea. The god of terror is giving him inspiration." With a menacing smile, he concluded a plane crashing into the sea would make for an unforgettable scene. The little girl and he shared a laugh as she finished her packing. The scene transitioned to an airplane filled with passengers enjoying what seemed to be a routine flight. Suddenly, a message appeared on the seat screens. "Egoistic is live with the greatest quiz show on Earth, happening at 25,000 feet. He appeared on screen announcing, "Welcome to the Ego Show, Live." Passengers murmured in confusion. The flight attendants tried to reassure them, but Egoistic interjected, "By the way, this plane is equipped with a bomb attached to the pilot." Panic erupted in the cabin as passengers ducked down, fearing imminent disaster. Egoistic chuckled. "Now let's begin the game." Meanwhile, Stardust sat in a meeting room, frustrated as she monitored the unfolding chaos. "How long has it been since the incident began?" she asked a board member. "If you go now, there might not be much you can do," he replied. Slamming her hand on the table, she retorted vehemently, "The association president should be doing something. We can't just sit around." The old man frowned. "When did I say you shouldn't try? It's just that the situation is dire." Suddenly, a figure stepped into the room, a smile on his face. Kim Cha-hyun, also known as Shadow Walker, an A-class hero. "I'm only going as far as Jeju Airport," he said, "and a battle is too much for me right now. We can't save everyone." She nodded, realizing she needed to consider his words. Before teleporting away, she expressed her gratitude, saying, "Thank you for your good work." But he struggled in the sunlight, unaccustomed to the brightness. As she arrived at her destination, she immediately noticed the plane was already in the air, taking off without her. Dismay washed over her as she whispered, "What am I supposed to do now? How can I stop that plane from crashing?" Her mind raced with thoughts of the chaos that might unfold if she did not act quickly. The scene shifted to several years ago inside a warehouse bustling with people, primarily metahumans, all gathered to witness an unusual event. Among them was a notorious S-rank villain known as Thousand Needles, confidently declaring that soon all of Korea would be under his control. Another figure challenged him, Shadow Walker, the Lord of Night, a class hero who confronted the villain, calling him what he was, a villain. From his seat, Thousand Needles scoffed, questioning how Shadow Walker had managed to enter his territory without permission. Instead of responding, the villain prepared to launch a powerful attack, claiming this was his turf. However, just as he aimed to strike, Shadow Walker stood motionless, seemingly unperturbed. Yet, in a flash, he vanished, leaving everyone bewildered and questioning his sudden disappearance. In the next moment, a shadowy figure lunged from the darkness, grabbing a person and pulling them down into a portal. One by one, the others found themselves captured within it as well, including the furious Thousand Needles. Anger coursed through his veins as he realized he couldn't afford to underestimate his opponent. Shadow Walker was not an ordinary opponent. A smoky figure loomed above him, and as Shadow Walker descended, Thousand Needles smirked, calling him an arrogant brat and launching a furious attack, taunting him with derogatory words. Yet, as he struck, Shadow Walker was suddenly gone again, prompting the villain to exclaim in frustration. He called out for him, but to no avail, as the hero revealed his true power. Shadow Walker, with a wave of his hand, manifested a dark energy, announcing that this was indeed his domain. A massive shadow enveloped both of them, and in the following scene, Shadow Walker lay exhausted on the stairs, murmuring that he was outside of his domain and felt he might truly perish from fatigue. Meanwhile, somewhere else, a young boy watched the confrontation unfold on a screen, feeling a sense of gratitude towards their efforts. The lead actor now entered the scene, announcing the beginning of the next part of a sinister quiz, sending shivers of fear through everyone on the flight. A flashback took everyone back 30 minutes earlier, where confusion and fear permeated the atmosphere as they anticipated the upcoming quiz. Egoistic, the host, simply watched with a mocking smile on his face as the tension rose. He laid down the rules before the frightened audience. Each participant activated their phones, disabling airplane mode to receive a text informing them about the egoistic nonsense quiz. There were 10 questions, and anyone who answered correctly would defuse the bomb. Failure would mean certain death. Participants were warned against any sounds. Whispering or cheating would lead to disqualification. The first question flashed on the screen. How many people can fit on a Titanic lifeboat? A timer set for 1 minute began to count down. A lady attempted to speak into another phone, prompting the voice of Egoistic to announce her immediate disqualification, a move that struck fear into everyone around her. As she fell silent, another man, caught in her mistake, faced disqualification too. The atmosphere thickened with dread as everyone recognized the gravity of the situation. Egoistic, enjoying the unfolding drama, quipped that the correct number, 9, sounded like rescue, evoking both laughter and nervousness from the audience. He pointed out that many had already been dropped out of the quiz, taunting them to take the challenge more seriously. Despite the escalating tension, a few participants managed to survive the grueling questions, but as the final inquiry approached, only one remained, Mr. Kim Deok from Bampodon, a nervous old man who felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. Egoistic, relishing the moment, asked him how he felt. The old man stammered about the burden of responsibility, but was quickly silenced by Egoistic for speaking too loudly. However, after a moment's pause, he let it slide since the old man was the last one standing. Joy washed over the elderly man, but the reprieve was short-lived as Egoistic reconsidered, disqualifying him with a wicked grin. As the plane shuddered ominously, the bomb detonated in the engine, signaling the impending doom. Egoistic announced that the final act was upon them, leaving the audience in panic. Meanwhile, a determined figure watched from the ground, anxiety flooding her thoughts as she realized the challenge before her. How could she possibly save them? As a start, she was watching the plane crash from the ground, contemplating what she could do and thinking of the chairman pondering what else she could do. However, the chairman mentioned that he was busy drafting a condemnation statement and that the president was calling, so he had to hang up. She clenched her fists on the ground, feeling powerless. She had barely managed to stop a train running at 100 kilometers per hour, but in this situation, her powers seemed inadequate. How could she possibly intervene? Memories of her parents' killings flooded her mind. Lying on the ground, she cried for her dead parents, vowing to kill the one responsible, feeling all the anger and despair wash over her as tears streamed down her face. She thought that, just like before, nothing had changed in her life. She was still alone. Suddenly, a voice rang out in her earpiece, calling for her. It sparked a flicker of hope. Perhaps this was a signal from someone on the other end. He mentioned that since the terror attack was remote-controlled, it might be easier to address than usual. The girl responded that there was a problem, and they began standing there on the ground, pointing out that there was some error in their plan. He couldn't believe what she was doing and frowned at her, questioning whether she could connect to Stardust's ear device as he needed to speak with her. She confirmed that it was possible, and he urged her to hurry up. Now he was speaking directly to her through the device, stating that he was egotistical. She cut him off, calling him a piece of trash. He simply wondered why she wasn't saving them right now, as the plane was already crashing. She retorted that he was the one who made it crash and now expected her to stop it. He countered by asking who else would stop it if not her. Enraged, she shouted that if she touched that steel hunk falling at 1,000 kilometers per hour, her body would shatter into pieces. Was this his plan to drive her to death? He insisted that she could do it, instructing her to plant her legs, fly into the sky, and see those people because that was what she was capable of. She could not believe he was speaking positively about her. Confused, she pondered what she was hearing. Imagining him coming near, he expressed that he had no desire to kill her. Without her, he would be just another common villain. She lit up at the realization that he was genuinely worried about her. Gathering her courage, she removed her earpiece. Perhaps this was a trick to eliminate her, but this time she wouldn't fall for it. In anger, she crushed the earpiece in her hands. After that, she summoned her strength and attempted to jump, the ground shattering beneath her. In a flash, she rushed towards the falling airplane, determined not to stand by and watch people die like this. She knew she would live the rest of her life burdened by guilt for not even trying to save them. Meanwhile, the egotistical figure on the other end was complimenting her, insisting she could do it because that was who she was. With a determined look in her eyes, she resolved to protect them without regrets about those she had previously killed. Inside the airplane, an old man was crying, lamenting that if only he had focused a bit more, he could have met his lovely grandchild and parents. He recalled memories of his mother and father and cried out loud. Another girl, frightened, was watching out of the window. As the flames licked the aircraft, she noticed they were getting closer to the city and observed that the speed was slowing down. Reporters on the ground questioned what was happening, with no answers forthcoming, while the pilots also expressed their confusion and anxiety. Noting that the plane was being guided by an external force, they instructed the passengers to remain seated with their seatbelts fastened. As the weight of the plane bore down on her shoulders, she persevered, thinking that they were almost there. The air hostess was trying to comfort the passengers, asking if they were all right. The old man trembled, uncertain of what was happening. The air hostess took them out of the plane, and he marveled at how, despite the chaos of the crash, they were now safe, sitting on the floor, exhausted as a crowd gathered around her. One woman exclaimed that this was what had truly happened. She had saved them. He cried out loud, declaring that she was the one who protected them. She was truly a hero. In that moment, she thought of the egotistical figure who had pushed her to her limits. The news was spreading all over the world. Newspapers reported that America was in shock while Japan was in turmoil, questioning who Stardust was, a hero praised by China and feared by France. It was claimed that even if they combined 10 of Japan's heroes, they would not be able to win against Korea's shocking revolution. In the reporter's cabin, it was introduced that this morning at 9, there had been news about a villain who remotely hijacked and crashed a plane. Miraculously, all passengers had been safely rescued. The hero who had intercepted the plane was none other than Stardust, Korea's proud hero. On television, a man stated that with her precognitive abilities, many experts had predicted that preventing the incident would be impossible. However, the plane had gradually slowed down. At the same time, she was watching this as she drank a glass of water, feeling really tired after just coming out of a bath, sweating all over her body. As she tried to dry off, her phone suddenly burst with notifications. She picked up a call, and on the other end, someone said, "Honey." She was taken aback by the voice of a blue-haired girl who asked her if she had requested the association president to give their friend Shinharu a little vacation. The girl was told to come down and spend some time by the sea to relax and clear her mind. Joyfully, she thought about how they could go for a run together since it had been a while. After agreeing to leave tomorrow, she decided to invite Kim Jae-hoon. Following that, she went to her balcony, observing her surroundings. She thought about her capabilities and realized that until now, there had been only one person who truly believed in her, which made her happy. Despite being just a villain, she pondered why he had chosen to save the plane. If he had known she would stop it and rescue the passengers, why had he crashed at all? She thought about his words, that he was just a common villain and that only she could complete him. These thoughts made her mind race with questions, but she couldn't help but feel that he had some hidden intentions. She decided that she needed to investigate his past actions. Suddenly, a call from the association came in. She picked it up, confirming that she would comply with their request, but questioned the remeasurement. The scene shifted to the association headquarters, where she was excited about the beach trip she had been eagerly waiting for. As they prepared for the trip, the boy worried about their plans, realizing that it felt like the first real break they had ever had since coming to this world. He smiled, thinking they should enjoy this moment, but their trip was delayed by a massive traffic jam caused by the heat. They were all confined inside the car, sweating profusely. One girl suggested they teleport the car away, but he responded that she would die instantly if they did that. He suggested they pull into a rest stop to fix the air conditioning first. Another girl lamented that they should have just taken the train instead, but he explained they couldn't do that due to the luggage they had packed. When she opened the luggage, she discovered a gun inside. The boy attempted to cover it up, saying they never knew what might happen and always needed to be prepared. This angered the girl, who questioned why he possessed such a weapon. He urged her to put the gun aside and talk instead. Eventually, they reached the beach and began enjoying their time. She played in the sand while he remarked that when he looked at her, she seemed like a child. Another girl offered him a cold drink, saying she had bought refreshments, and he happily accepted. They exchanged glances for a moment, sensing a mysterious connection between them. She expressed her gratitude for him, to which he questioned what she was grateful for. She replied that it was for everything, for saving her from the beginning and always treating her kindly. He smiled and insisted that he should be the one to be grateful, as she had taken care of the household chores and, most importantly, her cooking was amazing. Hearing his praise took her by surprise, and she shyly thanked him for the compliment. They both sensed that the atmosphere had suddenly shifted, making her think of potential betrayals or unforeseen circumstances reminiscent of dramatic twists in manga. The scene then shifted to the Hero Association headquarters, where Stardust was stepping towards the machine. A man above commented that they had not measured correctly according to the data, as there was no evidence suggesting she could have stopped the plane. This indicated that they had miscalculated her true potential. As she stood in front of the machine, she asserted that the test had not been wrong. She had indeed managed to stop an event that should have been impossible. An aura began to emit from her body, and as she attempted to launch an attack, the machine shattered into pieces around her. There was a massive explosion, leaving everyone shocked at her newfound level of strength. It was clear that she had become stronger than before, and there was a noticeable change in her eyes. Soon the girl expressed her gratitude for the compliment, but he noticed that something felt off. He wondered if there was some kind of betrayal in the air, like a situation straight out of a comic. The scene shifted to the little girl who was at the beach, enjoying her time while feeling jealous. On the other side, the girl and the boy were under the same umbrella, talking. The boy stated that he would be counting on her from now on, which prompted the little girl to question what they were both going to do, claiming it was unfair they would be getting all lovey-dovey without her. However, the girl insisted that it was not an issue. The boy suddenly smiled, and the girl, feeling angry, pointed out that they had come for a family trip and should play together. He agreed, and in a playful gesture, picked her up in his arms. She blushed, surprised by his actions, and told him to wait. Without warning, he threw her into the water. She screamed, questioning why she had to endure such treatment. Meanwhile, the boy stood on the beach with seaweed on his face. He thought about the last time they had enjoyed peace like this and realized he never imagined it could be so pleasant. They were genuinely having fun. In a contrasting scene, terrorists were loading their equipment, discussing plans to bomb the Busan Marriott Royal Hyperion Hilton. One man, shrouded in mystery, suggested they should make a big impact. The setting then shifted to the Marriott Hotel, where the reservation counter was manned by an attendant. She greeted them warmly, confirming the reservation under the name Soo-eun. The boy questioned why there was only one room, finally realizing that the little girl had arranged to save money. As they entered the elevator, he discovered there was a super king-size bed and suggested that they could just share it. The boy reflected on the situation. Thinking it had been a while since they had all slept together in a bed, he questioned whether anything inappropriate would happen. They soon settled in for the night, and nothing out of the ordinary did occur, allowing them all to enjoy a sound sleep. However, during the night, the boy felt an urge to try something. Just as he counted to 3, the door suddenly burst open. He raised his finger, and a gun magically lifted up, attacking the terrorists inside. The terrorists, groggily waking up, were shocked to find the girl, the boy, and the other guests taken hostage. The boy realized it was indeed a terrorist attack, his anger boiling inside him as he clenched his fists, cracking the wall nearby. He reflected on how he had only taken 2 vacations in his life, and both had turned into terrorist incidents. Pulling out his phone, he noted that they were experiencing an attack from a group known as the Shadow Walkers. Meanwhile, news headlines reported that the class hero Shadow Walker had collapsed in the western region. The girl awoke, surprised by the commotion, and he assured her it was a serious terrorist attack. Unfazed, she suggested that he should check the parking lot while she waited in the room. She agreed when he told her to stay safe. Instantly, he headed to their car where the suitcase was stored. He knew there was no way to slip out quietly without addressing the situation. As he peered out of the car window, he spotted a spare mask and thought that it was unexpected he would need one for this occasion. He resolved to confront the individuals who had ruined their trip without hesitation. Teleporting back to the room, he brought the mask with him to find the girl sitting on the bed. They all donned their earpieces, and with a grin, he rallied them, declaring it was time to head out, referring to them as his soldiers. The girl commented that this was the most excited she had ever felt. The scene transitioned to a location where numerous bags were gathered with hostages piled on top. The leader of the terrorists, a man named Monkey Spanner, questioned whether everything was ready. His soldiers confirmed it was done, and he ordered them to deliver the hostages to the Hero Association and the government. They claimed to have taken hundreds of hostages and warned that unless they received cash immediately, they would kill everyone, beginning to spell out the account number. Noticing an unfamiliar figure in a mask, the boy felt a surge of determination, stating that this boring act of terrorism would soon come to an end. Suddenly, he lifted a hand, and the guns in the room began to levitate into the air. The boy knew he had burned through months of stored telekinesis power for this moment. Just then, the leader of the terrorists jumped from his seat, landing on the ground with a loud explosion. The boy remained unfazed, viewing the rebel attack as pathetic. The leader, furious, pointed a gun at him and fired. In an instant, the boy felt searing pain as the bullet struck his stomach, with blood beginning to pool on the floor around him.